Graham here, living the dream in 2022. On our last day here in rural Tennessee, which also means it's our last day here in the United States. This video, guys, is going to be the first of two trip reports. The first trip report being on board Delta in Comfort Plus, which is really some sort of a premium economy product, which you would have seen in a trip report from Detroit down to Nashville recently. But this time is going to be on board a Boeing 717. Now, it's an aircraft I've never flown on before, and it's also an aircraft that Delta are slowly phasing out, replacing it with Airbus A220s and the Airbus A320 family. So this is going to be a bit of a unique one for me. I've never flown, as I said, on board a Boeing 717, and I'm really delighted to have this opportunity. I just hope there's not going to be an aircraft change between now and us getting on the flight from Knoxville down to Atlanta at 4 p.m. this afternoon. You joined Fiona and I where we left off in the last video, and that of course is at Knoxville International Airport here in eastern Tennessee. Right now we're aiming for the Delta check-in counters, because unlike in Detroit exactly 1 week earlier, we couldn't find any self-check-in kiosks. It must be something to do with Knoxville being a regional airport and certainly not a Delta hub. But as you can see, the Delta kiosks are very quiet this afternoon, and we get checked in no time at all. It probably took less than 5 minutes. A massive thank you to the Delta check-in agent. He was super friendly and super efficient. But it was very clear that there wasn't too many passengers clearly travelling from Knoxville to Glasgow this afternoon. We were through TSA in no time at all, and that's something I do want to say about travelling here in the United States. No matter what anyone can say about the TSA agents, I've always found them extremely friendly and courteous. However, there wasn't anything really to show you here in Knoxville International Airport. The terminal was very small, it wasn't very busy, it was extremely clean. Really guys, it was everything you would expect a regional airport here in the United States to be. So travelling in Comfort Plus, it wasn't very long until Fiona and I were boarding the aircraft, which being a Boeing 717, in economy they had 2 seats on the left hand side of the aircraft and 3 seats on the right hand side of the aircraft. From memory, Delta's first class domestic seating was in a 2-2 configuration on board this Boeing 717. But to be clear guys, this flight was only going to take 34 minutes from wheels up to wheels down, so we weren't going to be here very long. And of course this is best demonstrated on Flight Radar 24.
On our short 35-minute flight over to Atlanta. We'd like to thank you for your attention and welcome aboard.
As we pushed back off the stand, it was going to be a few minutes before the engines were going to be started. While Delta's schedule had this flight lasting around 1 hour, in reality it was only 34 or 35 minutes. So with Atlanta being a slot constrained airport, we were going to be held here on the ground for approximately 10 to 15 minutes before engine startup and taxi. But the wait, guys, wasn't that long, and soon we were taxiing to the runway. You can see in the distance the beginnings of the Smoky Mountains, a region of eastern Tennessee that we visited twice during our trip. So if you want to see what Fiona and I got up to during our 2 trips out to the Smoky Mountains, just go back to the last 2 videos. At this point in the flight, we climbed into a cloud layer and we stayed there until we descended into Atlanta. And before anyone asks, there was no onboard service on this extremely short shuttle service from Knoxville down to Atlanta. And as you can see, it wasn't long until we were descending into the Atlanta area. And when we made this journey in mid-April 2022, the temperature on the ground was 22 degrees Celsius or 74 degrees Fahrenheit. And there were a lot of storms forecast in the Atlanta area this afternoon. And that brings me to a question for any of you Americans watching this video. The second that I switched on my iPhone when we arrived in Atlanta, I received an emergency alert from the government, something that I've only ever seen in the movies, and the fact that everybody else switching on their mobile phones received the same emergency broadcast. And given what is happening in the news from Ukraine at the time of recording this video, it was very scary. Anyway, it turned out to be a severe weather storm warning, but my question to you, does this happen often in the US? Welcome to Atlanta Hartsfield International Airport, of course at the heart of Georgia. Now here's a bit of aviation trivia for you. When pilots here in Atlanta are being given instructions by the ground controllers, any taxiways with the letter D would normally be referred to as Delta using the phonetic alphabet, but not here in Delta's home airport of Atlanta. And it makes absolute common sense not to use Delta in the phonetic alphabet here while giving instructions by the ground controllers. They use the word Dixie instead. So the phrase Delta is only used when ATC are referring to the airline call sign. Anyway, as you can see, we're now pulling up and stand next to another Delta Boeing 717. And Fiona and I would have just over 1 hour to transfer across to our Delta flight to Amsterdam. Another piece of aviation trivia for you, Atlanta Hartsfield International Airport is also the busiest airport in the world. It's designed using a number of concourses numbered A to F. As you can see from the signs, we're currently in Concourse C and our flight to Amsterdam is departing from Concourse E. And all of the concourses are connected using a small train that you see in many of the world's larger airports. And that is exactly where Fiona and I are heading now. So with my GoPro battery about to give up, it's going to be time to bring this episode to a close. So how would I sum up my first and probably last flight on board a Delta Boeing 717? You know guys, it was absolutely fine. It was nothing to write home about. The onboard service was non-existent, but what do you expect on a 35-minute minute flight. The Boeing 717s of Delta are being replaced by the Airbus A220s manufactured right here in the United States. With the A220, you will of course gain in-flight services such as the seat-back flight entertainment system, but seriously, do you need that on a 35-minute flight? Anyway, back to today. As you can see, Fiona and I are about to board the little underground train to Concourse E. The next video up will of course be the trip report on board the Delta Airbus A350 in Premium Economy, or it's known as in Delta as Premium Select, from here in Atlanta across to Amsterdam in the Netherlands. So you know what to do if you want to continue to follow Fiona and I as we make our long journey back from Knoxville to Glasgow on Delta and KLM. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and press the bell icon to be notified when our next video is published. Thank you so much for watching.